Hello. Look at you. It's you watching us through the old lens thing again. God, you keep doing that. It's outrageous, really. But there we go. Welcome. Lovely to have you. It's All for United WFC. It's a fans forum. And we thought we'd go and get some fans because, like Ron Seal, we like to do what's said on the tin. Other wood stains are available at your local DIY store. We're not sponsored yet. Good stuff. Let's see what we've got today. We've got Emma. She's back. She obviously enjoyed it enough last time to come back again. How are you doing, Emma?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
No, glad to have you back. Thank you very much for joining us. And just underneath Emma, we have got the legend that is Andrew Wall. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, all good. So good to be back on.
Lovely to have you back on and flown in on an import as ever from America. We've got the return of Beth. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for joining us. And whilst we're on a big old thank you and happy spree, we might as well start with that. I don't know if you've noticed, but maybe if you've had a little look through the old Twitteroo, we have got some fabulous news because I'm not entirely sure why. Obviously, something big must have happened over the last couple of weeks, but All for United WFC has hit 2,000 subscribers. And I know that if the big dog was here himself, he would say something along the lines of, thanks very much, everyone. Really appreciate it. You're all very, very good people. Unfortunately, Cuddly Connor's all we've got because he couldn't be bothered to turn up tonight. So you've just got me. But thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for your 2K. And there you go. He's decided to throw that in writing. There we go. Which is good. He's really been practicing his writing lately, Connor. So we should be very, very pleased. And he got the right yaw as well. Good lad. You're doing a great job. Right. On to the nitty gritty. How are you feeling? That's the big thing. We've all had a bit of time to calm down. I was annoyed on Monday. If I'm honest with you, I'm still annoyed today, just a little bit less annoyed. Time is a bit of a healer. Emma, how are you feeling?
I'm still upset about Sunday. I'm not over it.
What in particular are you upset about? Is it the losing? Is it the way we lost? What's the overriding part of it?
Just the losing and the fact that Sam Kerr did a backflip. I'm not happy about it.
She does enjoy a backflip, doesn't she? She does enjoy a backflip. Did you feel like we deserved more out of it and that's the reason why you're upset? Because for me, that was it. They've had two shots that I could really call. One of them, obviously, Mary Earp tipped onto the post and the other one went in the back of the net, as it would. Is that basically what's the cause of the distress, shall we say?
Yeah, I think because we had so many more chances, it was just annoying that we couldn't capitalise on any of them. So that's all, really.
Yeah, I can understand that. Andrew Wall, we've heard rumour. There is stories abounding in our little groups that you may have got a little bit angry during the match. You maybe had a little bit of a swear. It was frustrating, wasn't it?
Don't know what. Did I? Maybe not. It still hurts. I just felt, just that first minute in the game and the sheer joy of Leo Golden scoring, and then it was ruled out offside because Tooney being, I think, half a yard forward. So, and then just at the 96th minute, just the hurt of, seeing Chelsea win it, and then I say I couldn't stay and watch them lift that trophy. I was just like, but let's say I'm nothing but proud of the team as well. I mean, the first half we were on top of Chelsea, and the fact that it didn't show, it was our first time in the final, so we, was going toe to toe with Chelsea. We're keeping Lauren James, Guru Wright, and Sam Kerr, really quiet. So it just. Second half, Penilla Harder comes on and the game starts to become stretch and her ball into the box, and it just had to be Sam Kerr that haunted us again. I wish she'd have been on the other side and she was scoring against Chelsea, but it's one of those things. I just felt like, and we did have our chances in the second half as well, so just not nice losing in the cup final. It just hurts very much in the minute, but I know that, and the players, for the players as well. So as Skinner said, look, we'll look to Sunday now, and like I say, use that hurt, and let's take it out on City and go and get a win in that game and another win in the final game of the season as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's how you're feeling. Beth, I don't know how much you got to see from your telly box across the water, but what did you see? How did you feel? And how are you feeling now?
Yeah, I actually got to watch the whole game, which was kind of nice. I was, as everybody else was saying, I was ecstatic that the very, like, couple seconds in, it looked like we scored. And then offsides, and then it kind of just went almost kind of downhill from there in a way because we couldn't take our chances at all. Like, we had a lot of chances, and either they just weren't pulling the trigger or like botching shots or like putting them right at the keeper. And then Sam Kerr.
It's annoying. Do you know, I've got to ask you all because this is one of the things that wound me up and that I got really annoyed about. But was Sam Kerr the player of the match for you, Emma?
No, I thought Harder for me would have been player of the match because I don't think Kerr had really anything to do other than the goal.
No, I'd agree with that. Andrew?
Yeah, I'd say the same. Yeah, Sam Kerr, she's pretty much quiet. We were always keeping her quiet, and then, like I say, she got that one moment, she took it, but I feel like Pernille Harder was the one that changed the game. You know, it went in their favour then.
Fair point. And Beth, would you have gone with Sam Kerr as the player of the match?
Absolutely not. She, like everybody was saying, she was quiet the entire game until Pernille Harder came in and then took one chance.
Yeah, I found that absolutely. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I genuinely was, and so that was the first thing that annoyed me. The second thing that annoyed me, and we had this discussion on Monday, so I don't need to quite go full blown like I did, but there was questionable substitutions. Sporty has said that he didn't have often a cause to call out Marc, but he didn't agree with his sub decisions on Sunday, and I know that some of us have felt that way. However, what I do know is that our chat on Monday led to us putting Nikita Paris as the player of the match. Would you have agreed with that, or would you have chosen somebody else? So for United, Emma, would you have chosen Nikita Paris, or was there somebody else who tickled your fancy?
Definitely Paris for me. I was really, really surprised that he took her off when he did. So defo Paris for me.
Andrew?
Yeah, I agree. She was like a force to be reckoned with in that final. I mean, I say she was like arguably our best player. She got stuck into every tackle, and you know, and when we was on the attack, she was like one of our main threats. And when Skinner decided to sub her off, I just think the game changed, and maybe not for the better. But that's like I say, it's Skinner's choice. He was like trying to change the game back in our favour as well. So, but yeah, in some ways, hindsight is a wonderful thing. Maybe she stayed on. Who knows what could have happened? But yeah, Nikita Paris was like the player of the match for me.
Lovely. And stateside?
Yeah, I agree with everybody was saying.
Well, we're all unanimous so far. So there's one more, and this is the one that divided the nation. Was it a penalty or was it a free kick? Emma?
It was hard to tell from where I was sat because I was like almost right above it. I thought it was a penalty at first, but I'm going to guess it must have been the right call with VAR being there, but I don't know.
Bless you. You're a very kind person, and I feel like you're the sort of person that we need on this show so that cantankerous old gits like me don't get us into trouble. But yes, okay, Andrew?
I think it should have been a penalty. Yes, it started from outside the box. I don't know whether that's what VAR, when they initially checked, I thought, well, it started outside. Yes, it shouldn't have been a penalty, they thought. But, I mean, it carried on into the box and she got clipped on the line. So, technically, and then Paris fell into the box. So, well, technically, it's a penalty for me. But, I say, the rules nowadays, you tend not to know whether or not it's a penalty or not. I think it's all subjective. We think it is. The referee in VAR didn't, but say on another day it could have gone for us. But yeah, I just thought we deserved at least to get that penalty and have a chance to score.
Absolutely. And Beth, penalty?
Yeah, it was. I didn't see it completely live. I looked down, and then next thing I know, VAR was coming up, and they were talking about it. But even from the replays, I thought it was a penalty.
Yeah, I would agree. And very interesting. I mean, Paul Greaves has put in here about it. when we needed VAR against Chelsea in the WSL for 2 penalties, it wasn't there. But we could have done without it. It was there to spoil it for us. And I'm just not convinced it was. I don't think it was looked at. I genuinely don't. The decision was just, as I said on Monday, for me, made too quickly. They didn't look like they paid any attention to it for something that was so contentious and so close. How they could see that in their mind that was outside of the box, I don't know. So, yeah, bit out of order, but there we go. Right, there's a few questions and things that are going in and points that are being made across the board. So we're going to go around and see if you can answer any of these questions. So you won't get necessarily the same ones. So it's no point sitting there thinking about what you would say, because I'll ask you a different question so we can get through some of these comments. We're going to kick off with you first, Emma. So John Fry has said, to me, if we want to improve next season, we need a goal scorer and maybe not keep playing Hayley Ladd and Katie Zellum together every match next season. I think we need more creativity, Lisa, VBR, or another. So do you agree with that? Do you think that the final, for example, would have benefited from having, as he says, a bit more creativity or not? How did you think the midfield performed, and do you agree with what John's saying here?
I think the midfield did all right on Sunday, but I was really surprised that Vilda didn't get any minutes at all. I definitely would have played her. But yeah, I think, to be fair though, I don't think the creativity is the problem. I think it's the finishing. I feel like we're not clinical enough a lot of the time. I think that's the problem.
Okay, fair point. Sarah Sproston has put here, we tried to find the perfect shot too much. Andrew Wall, would you go along with that? Do you think we're trying too much to walk it in effectively?
I think sometimes, well, maybe guilty of that in the final a little bit, trying to find the perfect pass into the box or that, perfect shot on goal. But it's just, in terms of that, well, definitely, I think next season going maybe another goal scorer that can work alongside Leslie if Leslie's still there, or that can hit those goals in. I'm just thinking what Rachel Williams said afterwards after the game. She said, or somebody else said, a lesson learned. You put the ball in the back of the net before they do. So we didn't. So, but it's if we bring in another striker, and if Leslie's still there now together, it's just which one out of Ladd and Zellum do you drop? And it's a difficult one. Who do you, and the formation change? But maybe Skinner's had these thoughts himself, and what the plans he's making for in the summer as well. But yeah, I just think our lack of ruthlessness cost us in the final at times. And say fine margins, they scored before us, and when we paid for it. So, but it's one of those. It's a lesson learned, and we'll come back from it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And Bethany, you've got one from Joseph Tyosu Bua. Sorry, I'm hoping one of those two is correct. Joe. Got one from Joe here. Going into that game, Vilda Risa was one of the best performers for the previous game before the final. How on earth does she not even come on? Emma briefly mentioned it. Would you have expected to have seen a cameo of sorts from Vilda Risa on Sunday?
Yeah, to be honest, she probably would have been the first sub for me, just because of her creativity and her ability to find, somebody mentioned it down here, ability to find the gaps and the passes. And just finding players and finding them in good spots. But I agree, but we also don't know what's happening during training. But at the same time, she's good. She had a good game. As long as she wasn't completely crap in the bed during training, bring her on. Yeah, so I agree.
Fair enough. Neil has put, United are clinical enough against big teams, just like the main team. I think you mean aren't. I'm hoping that's what you mean is aren't, because that's the second time you said something about clinical enough. Unless you're trying to tell me that they're really clinical, in which case please do tell it again, and we can discuss why it is you think that they are clinical, because I tend to agree. We've scored a lot of goals and we've done quite well. Emma, didn't understand the tune sub. Is what Dan says, our fellow co-host from All for United men's channel, and he meant Paris, not Toon. You mentioned that yourself, but I think the Toon bit is correct, because we dragged Toon out of position to put her out onto the right. Was it the fact that Paris was taken off that you was sat there worrying about, or was it the fact that Paris was taken off and we didn't put a traditional right-sided attacker out there? What in particular was it that bamboozled you on that?
I think it was a bit of both, really, because I thought Paris was everywhere. I thought she was really, really good. But I was surprised that he didn't make a more of a like-for-like replacement, like with Garcia, for fresh legs. That's what I would have done, because did he bring on Williams for Paris? Am I right with that?
Did, yes.
Yeah.
Williams.
Because I thought Williams came on too early. That's what I thought was a bit strange about it. But I think just taking Paris off in general was the first thing I was confused about. Then it just got more confusing, I think.
Oh, it did. Yes. At some point, you're like, I don't know where you're going. Even the players are like, where are we? I'm not sure. But there we go. James, we are going to pop onto the future in a bit. So I will try. I'm going to jot that down now. 2 games a week. I shall try and get to that when we move to that point. Jennifer, I think, is feeling how we're all feeling, really, which is that we don't really want to talk about it much more. But the point is, all WFC is so people get their voices heard. And obviously you heard from should we call us the mainstays? I don't know what you'd call us on Mondays. The poor sods that have to sit on their O'Connor, I suppose, really would call ourselves that one on a Monday. So we come along and say what we've got to say. But this is a chance for other people to have their say as well. And that's the whole point of what we're doing. So we're not going to spend too much longer on it. I don't think. Not sure I'd totally go along with that particular shout there. Andrew, would you take that one from Joe?
No, he didn't cause us to lose the FA Cup. It's just like, it was just one moment that we got, slip of concentration. Panilla got the ball into the box and just went past our defence, and Sam Kerr was, there on the end of it. So there's nothing much we could have done about it. The only thing he's saying about like the Paris substitution, yeah, if you hadn't taken her off, maybe we might have got back. But who knows? It's just today. He's there to make the decisions. But I just think no, he didn't cause us to lose the FA Cup. No way. So there'll be lessons learned from it. And we'll use, like he said, use that hurt and loss as fuel. Like I think he said, like last season when we was away at Chelsea in the final day and watching them lift the WSLs, like. Use that as motivation, and look how we performed this season. So you can only get better from here.
Yeah, very true. Sarah said the same sort of thing. Did Skinner's subs cost us the game? I'm not convinced his subs cost us the game. I think we had plenty of time beforehand, but it certainly didn't help. It absolutely did not help. It wasn't his finest moment with substitutions, but there we go. Here we go. Gabriella's put, I think we need someone that can create a moment of magic and can produce. We haven't scored a goal outside the box in the league, I'm pretty sure. Feel free to correct. That's a good, we might have, as Vilda Reese, there's been a couple of free kicks potentially.
Yeah.
I think there was a free kick at one. There was one against in the cup. Vilda Reese cup one.
Durham and Lewis.
So that was that. So we've had a couple. But yeah, I know what you're saying. You're going to have to really scratch your head to think of them. The majority of them are definitely inside the box. So would you go along with this, Beth? Do you think we need someone that can create that moment of magic and can produce? Or do you feel like we've got those and they just didn't like the touch paper at the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we have Borisa. We have Toon. They are good. They can create a moment of magic. The first person that came into my mind, though, is somebody that supposedly, according to The Athletic, Chelsea has signed, which pisses me off, is Katarina Macario. I wish. We couldn't afford her. Like, I love her to death. I love Man United to death. But she's coming from Lyon. She's before her ACL injury, she was a stalwart. She was making plays, scoring goals, beautiful goals. She's probably one of my favorite players currently, and it pisses me off that she's going to Chelsea supposedly. And if we would have her, she would, that midfield, those goals.
But this is what Chelsea do, isn't it?
Yes.
It's literally what they do. They come in, they take the cream of the crop, and then they wonder why it is they've got such good depth. And nobody whinges on the bench. Nobody's sitting there going, why can't I play? It's interesting, isn't it? I'm not really entirely sure what you're saying here, but because your name is so good, they've named you twice. I wanted to put you on screen because I love the name Jesse. Are you like Jesse J? Is that you? Is that what the J stands for in Jesse J? Who knows? In that case, it's not about the money, Beth. It's just, there we go. What else have we got? Yeah, I think you all pretty much said the same thing there. Lots of you talking about the penalty and saying it should have been. And yes, talking about the subs as well. So good. We're pretty much up to date there. Now, we'll go to this one now because James mentioned it a bit earlier on. And I think we've sort of done that last game to death. We have got a few things to talk about, but this is an interesting one. We're all thinking like we're going to be in the Champions League next season. We're going to really have to do something a bit dodgy to not make it into there. So provided we do, how do you think we'll get on with 2 games a week? Because James has put here the reason I asked that is that Skinner dislikes rotation that much. It'll be draining. Is it that he dislikes rotation? Does he just want the players that he wants? Is it about maintaining that consistency and that momentum? I don't know. But what do you reckon, Emma, to what James is saying here? If we've got 2 games a week, do you think that will force Skinner to think more about his rotation? And if it does, should we be worried if the rotation is going to be to the level that it was for the Conti Cup this season?
I think it's about getting a balance because I think we do have the right players in the squad to be able to play in the Champions League. And I don't think the rotation would be as heavy as like it was in the Cups. But I think as long as he uses the players that we have in the squad, then I think we'll be fine in the Champions League to play multiple times a week.
Lovely, well done. And we're also saying well done to Neil because he's finally solved that conundrum for me. I thought that's what he was saying. A little bit of breaking news, apparently. That's probably the wrong way to have said that. A little bit of news that might have just appeared. Leah Walty might have broke her ankle. Honestly, surely they can't have any more injuries. This is just... they're turning into an episode of Casualty. That's genuinely what's going on at Arsenal at the moment. Casualty FC. Which, probably filmed in Elstree, just around the corner from where they are, but it's not good. Something needs to be looked at there. But yeah, Andrew, what's your thoughts with regards to the future? If we are having 2 games a week, Marc Skinner's going to have to rotate, surely. He simply cannot play every single player Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday.
He's definitely going to have to rotate. He's probably more going to be in the cup games, probably the Conti Cup. I mean, you can't have him playing the same side twice a week. But I know Skinner likes that consistency as well. But I'm just thinking, knowing from the men's side as well, Ten Hag's like that consistency. Okay, the last month or 2, injuries, have come in, so other players have had to come in, but that's what you have a squad for, those that can come in and hit the ground running. So I just think, those players will, those that are not getting as much game time will come in and step up, and they'll say to Skinner, well, I'm doing well here. Well, I want to be in the first team for like the league games as well. So, but I just think they'll have all these plans worked out as well. So I think the players will be able to cope as well. So it's just, it's something they'll be having to get used to. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. John Fry's put the problem with United too is that we don't know who our new owners are going to be, so we can't even start to prepare for next season. I don't agree with this. By which I mean, you're right, we do need owners, but that's not going to change what our budget is necessarily. We'll work with what we've got. The budget would have been decided even before the Glazers decided to go, even within the takeover. All that information will be there. I think we still know what we've got to spend and how that's going to be. I can't imagine that changes too much, especially when you consider how much of a imprint the finances of the women's team is going to have on the team as a whole. It's not really going to be a drop in the ocean, as we've all said. 5 million quid would fund the club perfectly well. So I don't really think they're going to be sitting there worrying about their bank balance on that one. And for this one, Neil, just before we ask Beth that same question, I'm going to ask you to ask that question to yourself again in your head and then see what answer you come up with. And that's probably the right one, I would say. If you're taking off the same player and bringing on the same player, why isn't he picking somebody else? I know what. If I was playing Championship Manager, I know what my answer would be to that. Championship Manager, those are the days. It's Football Manager now.
Yeah.
Beth, what do you reckon? 2 games a week. Will we see more rotation? Will there be more trust in the players? Because this is what we're talking about here, isn't it? Is he just using players that he trusts? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of seems like it, but I mean, we're gonna have to. There's no other way around it. If we don't, we might end up like Arsenal this season, and that would not be good. So, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to. That's all I got.
Fair enough. No, that's good. Right. Sounds like it wasn't a very good tackle, that one on Leah Walty, according to Dan there. So
Yeah, I think Aggie Beaver Jones, I think they gave her a yellow, but it's been upgraded to a red. I think it wasn't no intent. Well, the intent wasn't there, but it's just, it was very, from what I'm hearing, bad tackle.
different opinions here. Paul saying you can't play 2 games a week without rotating. Joe says no, he will do it, even if there's 3 games if there's 3 matches in 4 days. Then the FA's really gone a bit wrong with their fixtures computer, and they need some work. Right. Well, we did promise you that there might be an additional person popping along. So he's back from his walk. He's just having a little drink now. There we go. A little scratch of the neck. See, we can see it all. It's great. So we'll bring him on when he's ready. Here we go. And there he is. Hello, John. How you doing, mate?
I'm okay. A long couple of days and that, going from London, having medicals for my visa and all that, so apologies for being late. But yeah, I didn't actually go for a walk. I was driving back, so yeah. But no, pleasure to be on anyway.
Smashing. No, thanks for popping on. So obviously we've had a chat about the weekend. You've had a bit of time to calm down. Are you feeling any better now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always, after a few days, you have to digest it. But my views are much the same as they were on Sunday. I think first half we by far the best team. Chelsea hadn't really turned up in the first half. Now Mary had to make a save. Although we were controlling the game, we perhaps didn't create as many chances as what we would have hoped to have done, and we certainly lacked a bit of clinicalism, and it's just that we played well up until a point, and obviously the sub for obviously bringing Fleming on. It was harder, wasn't it? That came on, so and she obviously changed the game and that, and then it's just one moment wins Chelsea the game. I wouldn't say Chelsea played better than us, but they got the goal, which shows where we are compared to them and that. And, I just think we need to strengthen that. We're not far off. I don't think we're that far off. And I actually turned to Connor and said, I think we're getting closer to beating Chelsea. And I think maybe next season we might eventually beat them. But we got to try and get top 3, get their players, and ideally you need someone who's a goal scorer to come in. Obviously we've scored plenty of goals this season, Russo goals and all that, but I just get the feeling you're missing. I can't remember who made the comment, but it was like you lack that someone who can get you that goal when you need it, really. And I think that was lucky. I mean, Russo had a snap shot near the end and that, and you just need someone to keep a calm head in that situation and take the chance. I do think that's something that we're lacking, and that I think that's something we'll look to address, whether Russo stays or goes. Is someone we have to get forward who's capable of getting goals like Sam Kerr did. Sam Kerr didn't have a great game. She didn't, she was quiet for most of it, but she turned up at the one moment, and that moment wins the game. And that's the difference between a team that wins things and a team that doesn't. We're not far off, but that's where we need to improve, I feel.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much. Right. Dan said this man always walking. Absolutely. But apparently in a car this time, Dan, so that's my bad. Right. What have we got here? We have got Chris Ratcliffe says we've got a team of top international players. He does need to rotate more. I mean, you say that, but just because you're a top international player doesn't necessarily mean you are going to be suited to the game. You know, I really think, and this is what we're going to get to now, is a bit more of a chat about Marc Skinner as such. But here we go. We might find that Marc plays more of the overseas players in the Champions League, as they may be suited more to European football as opposed to the WSL. Interesting take. Jennifer Jordan asks, are the women's team autonomous? I think yes and no. My understanding would be, and this is based on nothing other than what I would do if I was running the club, would be that the women's team are given a budget and then they just go and deal with it, and that's the money they've got to spend. It'd be a bit like being given pocket money as a child, I would imagine. If you get given £5, that's all you can spend for the week, and you shan't get any more until the next week. It doesn't matter how much you ask and beg, that's what you've got. So if you spent it all on sweets and comics, then no, you can't have that little toy squirted water gun that you saw in the shop. Would be my guess. But I could be entirely wrong, as I've never been in there. So there we go. Now, this is a very interesting point, and I've got to say, I mean, I entirely disagree with it. So I'm going to put the one that I do agree with, the one that I like first. Here we go. So Gabriella's put, one thing to take away from Sunday is just imagine the scenes when we lift a trophy. If we are that proud of losing, then imagine what it's going to be like winning. I know what you mean. I'm not proud that we lost, but I'm proud that we got there. I know what you mean. But that's what I wanted to talk about. That's the part of this conversation that we need to look to now with the future. Because Marc Skinner said after the game, and I loved his passion, there's stories that he took his medal and launched it on the floor, and that's caused all manner of debate amongst Twitter, people telling us that that's disrespectful if he's chosen to throw his medal on the floor as if Roy Keane ever kept one of his. I can imagine Roy Keane right now, I never kept the losers' medals, he would have said, never kept them, what's the point, you didn't win. That was the mentality of Roy Keane, who you could argue is one of the best captains that Manchester United ever had. So is that any different from Marc Skinner showing that passion and desire? Afterwards, he said, I will bring a team that wins a trophy. I will bring a team that wins a trophy. And that's what he said. Now, you take us back 12 months. We will learn from the mistakes that we make in defence. We won't be giving away those sorts of goals at the ends of games again. And fast forward a year, what he said is true. So, do you think that Marc Skinner will be at the helm when we eventually do, and it will be a when, but when we eventually lift a trophy in the women's game, will it be Marc Skinner that is doing it? Do you feel like he can do that? And the reason why I haven't brought this up yet, but here was the next one. So Joseph put, Skinner's preparing the British Women's Olympics team, forgetting that he's at Man United, a club side. Aside from honour, only British players you'll see on the field for United. I don't really understand this argument. I've never understood it. We should be talking about quality of the football players. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion, which country they're coming from. You pick the 11 best players. You have plenty of other players that come on. Garcia's there, Tunkara's there. There are other players around. Lisa Nilsson, obviously. There's plenty of them. It's not Vildebo Risa. Plenty of players that are not just British. So I don't really think that's what matters. But that's your opinion, and you're absolutely entitled to it. But I felt like I wanted to put that little disclaimer out there as we're putting it up there. You guys, some other people are already going in. What do you think? Emma, will Marc Skinner lead Manchester United women to a trophy? And why?
I definitely think he could. You know, I don't think it's a fluke that we've been top of the league for so long and that we got to a cup final. But I think everyone, players, manager, everyone, I think everyone still needs to learn things. Like, I think for Skinner, I think he needs to take more risks, like with subs. I feel like he's a bit safe when it comes to some subs, like how he often makes very similar ones every week. So I think every now and again he needs to sort of take a few more risks, maybe play someone he might not have done and just see what happens, because, you know, not you can't lose anything really by giving a player a chance. So that's what I think he needs to learn. But I think we're on the right sort of track with him to win something.
Yeah, I think I'd go along with that. Andrew, I mean, Emma says you can't really lose anything by giving him a chance. Would you argue that perhaps some people were given a chance in the Conti Cup and didn't really set the world alight when they were given that opportunity.
Yeah, you could agree with that. Certain players that played in that cup there didn't, put their marker down and, could have forced their way into the team. But I believe when we win a trophy, Skinner will be at the helm for that. I mean, obviously Sunday was our first cup final, but I'm sure there'll be others. And as I say, we're still in the title race too, and that can go either way for us. But and with the prospect of Champions League football on the horizon as well, it's looking good for United. I don't think at the end of last season, came to the end of last season, we could have predicted where we was going to be this time this season. So I think the mentality shifted in the team as well. Like last season, there were certain games we ended up drawing or losing. So, and this time, those draws have been turned into wins. So, on the case of like Chelsea, before was we hoping we wouldn't lose to Chelsea. We believe we could win, and I felt like we should have probably won and what could have been. But yeah, it hurts that we lost. But I think the attitude and the belief and the quality in that squad at the moment, I can see us winning trophies sooner rather than later. And just think Skinner knows what he needs to do now amongst the playing squad and take it to another level. But yeah, and I just think same on Chelsea at some point we will end up beating them. So we're not going to have that unwanted record for much longer. I think it's like nine games, and we've lost 8 and only drawn 1 of them. So yeah, that'll soon all change. So as I say, we beat Arsenal twice this season. I don't think anybody thought we'd do that. So it's all heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Did you just say that nobody could have predicted we were going to be where we are at this point in the season?
I mean, hang on. At the end of last season, I don't know whether we thought we'd, been fighting for the title and being a cup final. No. I don't think anybody, unless you Mystic Meg, and thought,
can I just make a point in my defence? I was on a show with Benny at the end of last season, and Benny asked me to make a bold prediction for next season. You know what I said? I said we'll either get top 3 or we'll get to a final.
I was going to say, I must have not watched that show, Barry, where you predicted it.
Yeah.
Mate, I've been saying it for ages.
Yeah, I said a year ago we'd either get top 3 or get to a final. And
you see, you only picked one.
We'll go out, we might get both.
None of these half measures, Johnny Kane. None of these half measures.
Half measures. It's not half measures.
You've had way too many measures lately. That's your problem.
Yeah, okay, Barry. How tall are you?
Cracking the Chelsea curse is more about psychology. Man United will beat them. Just need to believe they can. And again, here's a good point. Those who want Marc out, tell us who's available to replace her, and don't say Serena. It ain't happening. Totally agree. Beth, we've got here Mr. Skinner is building a team and a mentality with him. Is he going to be in charge when we lift that trophy?
I agree with Emma. I think we could. And I completely agree with you need to take risks. If a game's not going the way that you want it to go, and I would have probably either Bo Arisa or Lucia Garcia bring in. But, things just were not clicking that game. And that is definitely one thing that he needs to learn is to take more risks, get people in there, see if they can change a game. Even if, and I agree, they didn't make their mark in the Conti Cup, but that's a whole different ball game than a league game or a cup final. Sometimes you're more up for it. Sometimes you're just not feeling it. Let's see what happens. And the worst thing could happen is you lose, which we already did without the risk. So
Jennifer's going for a Skinner replacement. Shelley Kerr, a tough man. Is that Sam's mum? Not sure. Can somebody help me out here? Who's Shelley Kerr? No, Jennifer, you're going to have to help us out here. Who is she? In the immortal words of the young lady for your brother. Who is she? Help us out with that one. That'd be grand. Paul Greaves, I prefer to look at it as another game where we failed to beat Chelsea. We cannot even beat them when we're the better team. That has to change. It's hard to completely argue with that, but perhaps a little bit harsh. And again, John Fry just pointing out, I don't want Skinner out. I just want to make that clear, but not sure he'll win us a trophy with his philosophy at the moment. That's absolutely fine. John, are we in a situation where at the moment it feels like the only way United are going to win a trophy is if we follow the AEC rule, which is if we're facing anyone but Chelsea?
It does feel a little bit like that, doesn't it? But I think we're not that far off. Obviously, we're in the. Let's not ignore Chelsea could drop points either against West Ham and or Arsenal possibly, and we could still win the league. If one comment said before, if Chelsea do win those 2 games, I can't see them not winning on the final day. So we could potentially do it. But I think that it'll be a big season if Chelsea do win the league. Then you can't say for definite he'll win a trophy until it actually happens. But if we continue on our upward trajectory, I do think that once we get the hoodoo of beating Chelsea, and I think it'll happen sooner rather than later, then I think that will make us believe that we can and that. So, but obviously the league's still to play for, and that's we don't have to play Chelsea. And obviously Chelsea got a lot of fixture congestion at the moment, so you don't know. I mean, Hayes said hinted maybe there's a bit of tiredness. So it might be possible where they might drop points, and if so, then if we were to beat City and Liverpool, then it might happen. But we'll learn a lot about the team's character for the game on Sunday as well. That's a big game now, be a test of character, because we've not beaten City in the league, have we? So that'll be another test. Because can we actually beat City in the league? Because Arsenal, we've done it. We need to against City on Sunday and then see whether, but obviously Chelsea are the team to beat and rightly. And eventually, if we get top 3, we'll hopefully attract better players. Obviously, question marks over that Russo and I don't know which won't be easy to replace. But if we do, then hopefully we'll go from strength to strength. So, but yeah, it does have that feeling at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we can just add one more point. An interesting thing Skinner said after the game was, I think, where we lost the physical element during the game in the final as well, especially in the second half. And I think that's what made. I think that's why he decided to, sub off Erlatoon as well, because he was, losing more of that physical element. And obviously, I think the loss will just highlight that even more, coming into next season with the squad when we're competing in Europe as well. And I think when he's looking at players, I just think he will be looking at players, that have that physical element as well. And so I think recruiting wise, that's something he will definitely be looking at as well. So as I say, he's definitely mentioned reinforcements and investment as well. So depending who is going to be the owners of Man United, whether it's the Glazers or someone else, so hopefully Skinner and the team get that back into.
Yeah, absolutely. So High Lane has put by the end of the game, we had 5 forwards, 1 midfielder, 3 centre backs, 1 fullback on the pitch. It was just poor game management by Skinner in the end. Same thing happened at Kings Meadow. I'm not sure you can compare the Kings Meadow game really, because we just didn't make enough chances. That was slightly different. We came off of the back of that one, and I think we felt we should have won purely because we could have had 2 penalties. Whereas on this one, we felt like we should have won because we had the better chances. We were the better team, and Chelsea were absolutely pony. But there we go. Jennifer started shouting at me, but only certain words. So I'm a little bit confused as to what's going on here. But it turns out that Shelley Kerr is the ex-manager of Arsenal and Scotland, but a defender with Doncaster. So that was very loud, that one. I think I made something fall off the ceiling. But there we go. And also, and not to be sniffed at, was manager of Stirling University men's team as well. So there we go. It's a shout. I don't know if it's a good shout or not, but it is a shout. High Lane is also following the ABC rule, which is that Arsenal beat Chelsea. So then we beat City. We take control of the race, which is absolutely true. We all know this is what's going to happen anyway. Arsenal are going to get points against Chelsea, and we'll be winning the trophy in 2 weeks' time. And we're coming back on going, why were you worried? Why were you worried? Yes. Midweek, that's right. Weekend's going to be important. We have never beat City in the league, as we said here. And then, obviously, starved of attention, in pops Connor. Guess who's back again? So a special has been recorded. I'm not going to tell you who with. What I will say is that you can see Jimmy Neutron live hosting that particular show. And whilst Jimmy Neutron / Eugene / the Ice Gem, this guy, is hosting, he's got himself a very special person who he's going to be talking with. And they're going to be divulging some of the tactical issues that might have been faced during that game against Chelsea. So get yourself on the channel tomorrow to watch what he has just recorded. And just in case you're worrying, it's kind of just in case you thought I was speaking to myself, which I feel like I'm doing pretty much all the time, even though there is 30 of you watching now. So, there we go. We've got 2 questions here. I'm going to leave this one till the end, Sporty, purely because I feel like we've asked it before and I feel like I know what the answer is going to be. I'm more interested at the moment in this question. We're talking about Skinner and what's going on. There's been a bit of talk about the choice of players. I've always been an advocate for keeping the same team as much as you can with minimal changes unless they're necessary. So Joe's put here, it's too easy to predict and prepare against because you always know who is starting even if they're not in form. Now, Emma, I would argue that whether you're Man City in the men's game and Leicester in the men's game, or whether you're Chelsea in the women's game and who's rubbish at the moment, Reading in the women's game, it's irrelevant. You know really who's starting for Chelsea. But at the end of the day, that's the whole point of football, isn't it? That you learn how to play against the performances that you know you're going to see from these teams, because it will still be the same tactics, same attack, all of those sorts of things. So is this something you'd agree with, that actually by keeping the team the same, this is what the problem is that people learn how to play against us? Or do you think that's just the case regardless of who you put out on the pitch?
Well, I think I read something once that said we've made the least changes to a starting lineup in the league, and I thought that was interesting. But I think there's been quite a few games this season where the games have been won by substitutes, like the Reading game and maybe the Villa game as well spring to mind. So I think, I don't know if it is always down to the starting lineups being the same that we've been as good as we have this season. I think the subs and the rotations made a big difference. But I mean, there is obviously the argument of don't change a winning team, but there are some times where it's not a pretty performance and a sub has come and changed it. I think that's happened a few times. So I don't know if I'd agree about keeping the same team all the time.
Fair enough there. Sorry about that. John was just flashing onto the screen there whilst also finishing off his little phone call, but that was all good fun. Andrew, the second part of what Joe's put here is that even if they're not in form, now I've always advocated if you're not in form, that's when you make the change, because you try and give that other person the chance to perform so that that person realises there's competition for places. That's the argument I understand. If you need to have competition for places in order to try and push people to be the best they can be. Joe clearly thinks that we're playing people whether they're in form or not, which I think probably explains why we're not necessarily getting players off the bench. But what's your thoughts? Is Joe right? Because John Fry, I have to say, normality has been restored. Me and him very rarely agree, and it seems like he's got over that little fever that he had where he was agreeing with everything that I said the other week, and we're back to disagreeing with each other. So what do you think?
It's a difficult one. So that the team picks it, well, it's been picking itself at the moment, well, even across the whole season. You said the goalkeeper, the back line, the midfield and the attack, and I'm just thinking of one player in particular. Just thinking like Ellison sometimes in some games has not been on it, but then she can give you that one moment where she unlocks the defence or goes on to score a goal. And there could have been an argument where she could have been dropped for a few games and maybe Boa Risa came in. So it's, but then even sometimes when players are not having such a good game, you know, they can play their way back into form. So I can see why Skinner's, keeping the same side for that consistency, and trusting those players. So it's a difficult one. You want to give those players that, on the bench and game time as well, and agree with them that the substitutions have paid off this season as well. I'm just thinking the Villa away one particularly because he started with Ethan Manning in the defence, and then Millie Turner came on at the end, and it was like, well, pretty much told her, go out there, if we get a set piece, go and score it, which she did. So it's just, I think that's been the key this season. But I think next season maybe, if certain players are not playing well, then he might have to consider that more rotation, bringing players in and then giving them a chance, and then they, playing their way into form. So be interesting to see.
Absolutely. Sporty has just diverted my attention because I don't know what a BV contingent is. Presumably you put a flag up there that's probably visible on YouTube, but not on my StreamYard comment. So I've got no idea which country you're talking about. Now, the word constitution, one might imagine that's America. Is that such a thing? Is that what you're celebrating today, Bethany? Or are you just as clueless as I am about what's going on here?
Yeah, I'm just as clueless.
Brilliant. So you're gonna have to write the name, Sporty, I'm afraid, because I have not got a Scooby-Doo what we're chatting about. It's the Norway flag. Thank you, guys. So it's the Norwegian contingent. Happy Constitution Day. Enjoy it. Good stuff. Thank you for that. Bethany, as we've just been talking about with the same team, do you think you can go a season without making too many changes? I know we've spoken a little bit about having to rotate if we have the Champions League to play in as well. But, as John said, Willie, that's the question. Surely the most important thing is, as Jennifer's just put, as Sir Alex said, you just play your best 11. And actually, if we've got players that aren't playing at the moment, the question has to be, John's put here, if the fans can see certain players looking tired, etc., then surely the coaching team can see it on the pitch too. At which point you've got to ask yourself, so what are they seeing that you're not seeing? Because we put there our opinions based on what we've watched for 90 minutes in front of us, but they see them every single day. So I think you're being incredibly naive if you don't think that the coaching team understands what those players are going through, how they're feeling, and what they can achieve. And sometimes I think us as fans, we just elevate ourselves just a little bit too high, imagining that we know everything that's going on based on that tiny little window. What do you reckon, Bethany?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. And they also have the training staff that they talk to and work with every single day. And they have all the data in the world. Like, they know when the peaks and valleys and everything. And I think this may be a little strange for the three gentlemen on the panel and everybody else in the comments too. But as a female or as a human that has a menstrual cycle, you can ebb and flow throughout the month, and depending on the game, you may look like you're shattered and you might be a little shattered, but you just have to live with it and you just have to keep going. And they probably have talked to the coaching staff about every little thing going on in their life. And do I think that, I think there should be a little bit of rotation, but at the same time, we don't know everything that's going on.
Make a cracking point. We know that for a fact. We've certainly seen it in the Chelsea documentary and all those things that are being mentioned. But they literally do. I believe they track the entire menstrual cycle, so they know the time of the month that the period's going to occur. And by knowing that, that's then helping them to decide how they've got to behave, what they need to do in order to support the players, because the club know that. And that's what I mean. I'm not having a go at fans when I say what I just said, because I know that we all do it. I do it. I sit there and go, why is she still playing? You saw me on Monday having a go at the fact that Nikita Paris was taken off. Maybe there's a reason for that I'm not privy to. But with the information I've got, that's how I feel. But like you just said, they have got access to all of this information, to everything that's being put there. You've either, at that point, you've just got to decide to trust the coaching staff or you don't trust the coaching staff. And I can't see a reason to not trust the coaching staff at the moment. Can you, John?
No, and that's what I mean. The other factor is, well, you could have 10 players that are knackered on the pitch, but you can't take them all off either.
Well, no, allowed to.
It's just about making the judgment which you feel is right to, to look at the situation and what they can manage. It goes to like Beth makes a good point, regarding menstrual cycles, and you also got to factor in some women have worse menstrual cycles than others as well. As well, you got to factor that in as well. And I just think it's quite hard to, as Beth said, it's quite hard for me as a man to understand how it would affect women's football in general. Obviously, it will have an impact, but we're not sure how. But basically, the coaches have to make decisions which they think will help us in the game to win the game, and that. Now, I agree. I want to take Paris off, but is there something like she might have felt a niggle as well? Like she might have felt a tight hamstring or something. It hasn't been reported, but that's what I mean. You got to factor these things in as well. And for me, the players they have the coaches, they will have specific tactics. Like if Chelsea in the settle, is it part of guesswork as well for the opposition? If you do something like, Chelsea got used to Russo, Paris, and goals and playing. Right, well, let's stick Rachel Williams on. So you got 2 forwards on, put Tuni on the right. Now, I don't think that was the right decision at all, but it does make the opposition think, oh, we got 2 forwards to deal with now, and that kind of thing. So you got to, that's these, and it's about tactics. They won't always work, but if that, it's always like we're always gonna, it's substitutions. Like you're probably thinking about why is he bringing Millie Turner on to win the game when we need to score a goal, and then she goes ahead and does it. That kind of thing. So we're all geniuses in hindsight, but nobody. The thing about tactics and substitutions, it's not always going to go the way you want it to. It's that guess, like we're going to do something just to change it up a bit, and I'm sure they'll have the reasons for it. And basically, like a lot of these coaches are better qualified than what us fans are, so we won't always agree with it. Like sometimes they might throw a player on. The moment that you're bringing a player on simply to please the fans, you're not doing your job properly. You're really not. So for me, you've got to try and do it to improve the game. We can see this game suits bringing a certain player on, but it doesn't mean say it'll always work. So for me, the moment a manager starts picking players just purely to please the fans, you're not being a manager then. You've got to trust your own instinct. It won't always work, but if you trust the way you think, more often than not, it will work.
Yeah, no, good points. Jennifer Jordan's had come up with a couple of interesting messages so far. The first one saying, when actors start flagging on stage, the understudies are waiting in the wings and are ready to replace the star players. Absolutely. I don't know if you've been, I'm assuming you've been to the theatre if you've done that. I can't describe to you how wound up I get when you've paid 70 quid for a ticket to go to the theatre, and then you go and sit there and you open up the book and you find out, Shane Ritchie's not playing the lead part in Grease today. It's Tom Thumb, who nobody's ever heard of before. And as a result, it doesn't quite feel as good. You're in trying to go, do you know what? It was a really good show. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't get to see the people that I wanted to see. I'm not suggesting we keep the players on just because they're famous, but, it comes back to what I think John just said. And I'm just pleased I read this entire sentence after what we were talking about, because Kay said was not match fit after her period of banishment. I was like, crikey, that one's gone a little bit. How did you know? Not sure that's published, but there we go. So there we go. Yes, absolutely, Connor. Love that. Love that.
How do you know I've not drank today, Connor?
Well, because you're coherent would be a start.
I did say I speak more sense when I've had a drink. So.
And again, this is an interesting point from Nelinda. We faced Chelsea 3 times. Every time we were the best in the first half. Then we changed tactics in the second half, start to sit back, play the long game. As soon as we start to do that, Chelsea hit back. Is that something you'd agree with, Andrew?
I just think with regards to the final, I just think, especially second half, it was a substitution for Chelsea. Putting it harder coming on and the game becoming stretched. I think that was the big thing, was were we sitting back? Well, probably was having to sit back because they were on the attack even more. They just felt like Emma Hayes probably gave them a bit of a rollick in the half time, saying, well, you can go on the attack a little bit more in the second half. I just think first half they were playing a bit cautious, and with the way we started, I think Chelsea were rattled, and we could have probably been maybe 2-3 up, but I just think back to the end of last season, when that the last game of the season, where the first half we were toe to toe with them, and just second half, Chelsea's quality and experience just showed through. So as I say, it's fine margins with Chelsea at the moment. We're nearly there. We just got to find that extra 1% more than Chelsea, and then once we do find it, then we'll be hopefully winning a lot more games against them.
Absolutely. Connor's speaking again. Oh, more on this on the tactical show tomorrow, Nalinda. Ooh. And then he's obviously been listening. The subs for us, James started out it big time. There we go. Go on, Connor, getting involved even when you're not here. Good stuff. Right, the rest of you. There was a question from Sporty that I would like you to answer. Based on what's going on, which one position would you prioritise recruitment for over the summer? So when we say recruitment, you can assume whichever way you want. You can assume that Honor's staying or Honor's going. In fact, you can answer that question, because that was one that was asked. Do you think Honor and Leslie will stay? So you can answer that one, to which we all know. I'm going to preempt it. I reckon the answer is going to be depends whether we get Champions League or not. Everyone will throw that one in probably. But do you think they'll stay? And then which position would you prioritise? Emma, would you like thinking time, or do you want to go first?
I'll go. I'll go first.
Go on, Emma.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to. I think it's hard to predict who's going to stay at the end of the season. I'd like both to stay, obviously. But I do think that Leslie's going to go, as sad as it is. I think she is going to go. Honor, I'm less sure on. And then recruitment, I think it just depends on who we lose in the summer. Maybe I'd go for a more prolific striker, someone who can score 20 goals a season. But I don't know. I think it just depends on who we lose and where we need to reinforce come the start of next season.
Sounds fair to me and sensible. Somebody there is looking at all the facts before deciding where they're going to go. You could be a manager. John Fry's gone for a goal scoring striker, so presumably what we're saying there is we don't want Senior Bruyne. What do you reckon, Andrew Wall?
Such a difficult one. I see Honor staying more than I do Leslie, so that would say we'd have to go out and get a striker that can score those goals for us. I was thinking the example, Beth England at Tottenham. If she doesn't want to stay at Tottenham any longer, she might want to hot foot it to Manchester and come and play for us if Leslie decides not to sign another contract. But I think even if Leslie does stay, I think we still need another striker, can add to her goals as well, so make us more clinical as well. But yeah, I think a striker position would be the key in the summer for me.
Fair enough. Jennifer Jordan's gone for a striker all day, but has failed to tell us what she would go for all night. So is that also included in the evening, or have you changed your mind when you get to bedtime? I don't know. Bethany, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. It's striker, especially if we lose Leslie, but even if we don't, hopefully Anna will stay. If she does, we're golden. If not, right back. Yeah.
Absolutely. TJ has literally turned up at the end of the show, so you'll have to go back and watch all the fun bits that happened before, but nice to have you here. And Gabrielle's put, I'd only emotionally accept if Honor goes to Barcelona. We're seeing Lucy Bronze benched because Honor comes would be a sight to see. Absolutely. Did you answer whether or not you think Honor and Essie stay?
No, I didn't.
John, sorry, John. Sorry, I was talking to Beth.
Oh, sorry.
That one. Did you answer that one about Honor and Essie?
No, I don't actually think I did.
I didn't think you did. That was why I was going back to ask.
Yeah, my bad. I can see Honor staying, hopefully, but I also see Leslie leaving, unfortunately. As much as I want her to stay, I see her leaving. If there hasn't been any like progression, and we don't know, but if there hasn't been any progression, then we're screwed.
Interesting. Jennifer's got no outgoings. Recall lone players. What say you, John?
I agree with everyone. I think kind of goal scorer. That's what we were lacking on Sunday, and just that prolific goal scorer that we need. We need to play if you're going to go into the Champions League. And that then you need to have someone who'll get you 20, even 25 goals a season. You really do need that. And, Chelsea have that. It was Sam Kerr, I know she's been injured, but players like they're capable of doing that. It's like Russo and Golds. And, they've scored 25 goals between us. But if you're going to compete, in Champions League, you really need that to be maybe 30, 35 even, something like that. So, for me, get a goal scorer in. And that, obviously, if Ona goes, then we're going to need a right back as well.
Very good. Will Grace Clinton be back next season? She'll be back this season. She's back now, physically within the squad and training. She's just not allowed to play because obviously she's been elsewhere at the moment. So she's not available for selection, is my understanding. But yes, she is already back. Again, just make on a captain. You made some incredible shouts today, Joe. I can't argue with that. Very bold with what you're saying. Who knows? Maybe we'll make you manager. That'd be a good one. And then we'll see how you get on. But yes, there's no doubt that Honor could be a captain. So could Hayley Ladd. So could Mary Earps. And so could Emma, as we've just said. Really good. She could shout from the side. No problems whatsoever. Here's an interesting question from Tyson Fury. Do you guys know a quality striker they could reasonably get? So you pretty much all said you'd like a striker. Who would you pick?
I'll say what I said earlier, Beth England. If she doesn't want to stay at Tottenham, after the season they've had, then
my knowledge is lacking a little bit with European players on the continent. Maybe you could get someone who's young up and coming, maybe who could go to that next level. But the obvious one in this country will be Beth England.
Emma, Beth, any interesting shouts that you'd like to go for?
I'm gonna pull one out of the back door. Ashley Hatch from the Spirit. I know nobody probably has any idea who she is, but she's great. She's scored quite a few goals already in the season, and with the NWSL playing in the summer, possible loan. I'm just saying. But
I might not know what you're talking about. I just appreciate how you managed to rein that little quote back in and put it back into a PG context. Well played, you. Good job. And Emma, go for it.
I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon and join with Beth England. I think she's probably the most realistic target.
A double signing from Tottenham this summer: Beth England and Harry Kane.
Yes, I don't think Harry Kane's going to make it in the women's team, if I'm honest with you, John. I don't quite know how to.
Yes, I know.
We could try.
Well, it's ironic that probably the areas we need to strengthen most in the women is also the same with the men, possibly. So.
Yeah, loads of people going for Beth England. Everybody seems to be saying that. Revlon's put Wolfsburg have Wasmuth on the bench all season long. Only Alexia outscored her at the Champions League last season. She's brilliant for Wolfsburg. So there could be some people. TJ's going no to rapping no.
She's like 30. She's late 30s. We're good.
Whereas Jennifer Jordan goes, it needs to be an unknown from the US, like Rapinoe.
Rapinoe's not unknown, though.
I'm a bit confused.
Trinity Roberts.
Even I know Rapinoe. No, anything about US.
TJ's
when she needs unlike Rapinoe, I don't know, Janet. I'm a bit confused.
East Coast rap.
Bit of a conversation here about Ebony Salmon's contract situation with the Dash. Don't know here. Well, here we go. Talking of names we don't know. I want Nicole Douglas from the NWSL. Do you know who that is, Bethany?
I don't, but I really only follow the Spirit and the big name players that I know.
Okay, that's going to be your homework then for the next time we have you on. Find out who Nicole Douglas is. Is she any good? Because we all know that Skinner watches. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I do like what TJ said. The Ebony Salmon's contract at the Dash. What is that? You guys should know her. She's English.
Oh, yeah, we know her. Yeah, absolutely. I do know Ebony Salmon. I've heard of her many times. And Jennifer's gone for a different one. She's shouting us again, Alex Pop, which could indeed be a good one. So lots and lots of people. And we'll end it with that. Chris, good shout, Jennifer. I think there's lots. Do you know, I think as a fan base, we're hurting. I think we're all sat here just feeling a little bit annoyed because we all know that that was a really good opportunity. It's the equivalent of missing an open goal is kind of how it feels, something that Sam Kerr just a few is to be unable to do. And if she could, wouldn't it make our world a better place? But there we are. Never fear, because although Arsenal may have just absolutely whooped Everton, it's the 99th minute. It's still not finished, according to
Everton have won the second half.
Yes, they pulled the goal back. It's 4-1. So that's helpful for us keeping the best defensive record in the league this season. But of course, in literally seconds, West Ham United will host Chelsea, and we're all going to go and watch it, possibly whilst praying that West Ham can cause the same sort of problems to Chelsea as they caused to us this time last year. I really don't want them to be waiting until the 94th minute until they head that ball into the back of the net, though. So let's hope that we can pull that around. As far as Chelsea goes, we're going to stop sitting here and talking and commiserating and getting ourselves all upset. Tomorrow night, you can join All for United WFC and watch Connor with his special, talking all about the tactics. If you want one last little bit of healing to happen, and then we'll be gone. We'll be looking forward on Friday to that tiny little game, not that big, away to Manchester of the City. It is the Manchester derby. It's going to be huge. As we said, we've never beaten them in the league before, so a good opportunity for us to do that. And on Monday, the usual crew will be back as we pull it apart, and hopefully we'll be in that situation where we will be one game away from me making the ultimate prediction at the beginning of the season. Now, I know John Commode very well, and John would be happy more often than not for me to be wrong about everything I ever say. But I genuinely believe that everybody sat watching is thinking, God, we hope he's right, because it would feel just a little bit better than it currently feels now. Thank you very much. You've been brilliant in the comments. You've carried the show across. Thank you once again for coming on. Awesome as ever. Here's Andrew. Thank you for popping by. Beth, thank you so much as well. And John, thank you for joining in as well. And we'll see you all tomorrow night. Night, folks.